Alright, hello everyone, Amanda here with Eclectic Scribbles, back to you today with a brand new video, and today is the start of a new series, which is going to be a paint with me series. I will have a paint with me and a draw with me series, so this one is going to be the first paint with me, and I am just going to sort of go with the flow. I will voice over what I'm doing, any relevant parts I will go over, and other than that, so we're just going to kind of get started. I have got a combination of just watercolors. I've got a couple of pinks, a yellow, a few greens, and some Payne's gray over here, and we will get into painting. I want to do some florals today, just random florals that absolutely anybody could do. So if you'd like to paint along with me, then grab your supplies. I've got my silver black velvet brushes over here, Arches 300-gram water paper, got my spray bottle and a jug of clean water over here, and my towel to wipe my brushes on. But otherwise, yeah, outside of maybe doing some loose florals today, I really don't know what we're doing, so we'll have to wait for the voiceover and see what happens. I will see you back here at the end. Okay, so time for the time-lapse portion, and first things first, I am just going to get all of these watercolors a little bit wet and pull the pigment out in sort of the tint and shade that I want to. So these are all tube paints. They're all Daniel Smith tube paints, and of course I didn't write down which colors I actually used, but we've got some magenta, some probably permanent pink or permanent rose, we've got a nice yellow, a couple of greens, and a Payne's gray. I'm just going in here and I literally just flicked pigment onto the canvas itself, and am just making really loose dabs all over the page with the color, and that is going to be what forms the base of my flowers. So I'm starting with one pink, I'm going in, I'm working with the next pink. It's more of a purple undertone to it, and I'm going in there and making some loose marks where the splashes hit. So that's how I'm determining where my actual florals are going to be for this. Now we're going to go in and do the same thing with some yellow, just all over the place where I think it needs a little extra pop of color. And my plan going into this is that the flowers be the top 2/3 of this canvas, which are this piece of paper, which is a 5x7 piece of Arches watercolor paper. And then the bottom third is going to be greens to give the, I guess, impression of leaves and stems and ground, so something for the flowers to actually sit on. And this is just me wetting the bottom and getting green all over the place, and then stroking up with my flat brush and making it look like stems. This is just a quick and loose movement. There's absolutely no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, I try to hit some of the flowers so that they're not just floating in space, but yeah, just flicking up. And then once it dries a little bit, I'm going in with a different green just to give a little bit of actual dimension to the flowers and to the background. So as you can see, this second green has got a lot of a blue tint to it, and I'm not overly happy with how blue it is, but just be aware of that when you are taking your color choices into account. And I went with a fairly simple color scheme, but you can certainly go in here and just go crazy with the amount of color and have all kinds of colored flowers in here that you want. I am going back over top of like the insides of some of the flowers now that I have hit it with the heat gun, and just giving them a little bit more detail in some places, a little bit of shadow, a little more depth. And I will go in here and I will rework some of the bottom and the ground portion again as well, but I'm just adding more pops of color and trying to fill up my spaces with flowers. I want there to be some white space on this, but it doesn't have to be in your face a lot of white space, since I'm not doing any kind of sky in the background. They're going to be sitting on a white background. And to hide some of that blueness of that one green, I am coming back in here and going over with a deeper green on some of these stems and giving it some more leafy texture down here toward the bottom. You could, if you wanted to, go in and put these flowers on a nice blue sky or on a sunset type sky as well. And what you would want to do for that is to just go in and lay down a blue or sky color of your choice. Make sure that that is nice and dry, and just go easy with your next layers and the amount of water that you put down on that. So that also means that you could go in and do a blue to green gradient to have your grass in place from the beginning as well, sort of faded into your sky. So these are just little alternatives. Like I said, I didn't have any plan with these actual florals going into it. I didn't know what they were going to look like, but I wanted them to be something that anybody could do without needing to know anything about flowers or anything like that. And I think I've achieved that. So right now it looks like an abstract little garden of wildflowers, and I actually love that. So just drying in between layers. You can wait for it to dry or hit it with a heat gun or a hair dryer. You know, you do you. So now we're going to get everything out of the way and move on to the next step, which I love. Is like the best part. Okay, so here we have a stopping point, and you can perfectly fine leave it like this. You can leave this as a painting. You can cut this into bookmarks. You can do whatever you want to with this very loose floral, which I actually happen to love quite a lot. But what I'm going to go in here and do is doodle on top and turn all of these flowers into something really special. I have got all of my Tombow mono drawing pens here, and we're just going to go in here and doodle on top of the flowers. I may come in here with a white gel pen also, so we'll see what happens. But now I'm going to go in with each of these pens and just doodle over top of the flowers and give it a little more depth. Alright, so don't get scared at the fact that I am coming in here and doing some type of line art, because it is really not going to be that intensive, because I know I said that anybody could do this, and I promise you that that is the case. So we're zoomed in a little bit here so you can see really clearly what is going on, and it is me just turning each blob of flowers, sort of using the splashes of paint as a guide, into little flowers. And I'm just making little petals and just oblong little shapes here in all of those little dashes of color. I'm going over some of the stems with a black line that's really sketchy, running from the top to the bottom, maybe making a couple of leaf shapes here and there. But whatever kind of petal or shape sort of tickles your fancy, just go in there and get at it with that. So I'm just, all kinds of flowers, all kinds of shapes are happening here. And again, I'm using like some of those darker spots as the little bud in the flowers. I'm using, I'm going outside of the color. You definitely don't have to stay inside any sort of line here. I'm just using some of the splashes of color as a guide. I'm going in with the 03, the 05, and things like that for maybe the bolder lines, and then the 01 for some finer little details, but it's not going to be anything special with the fine details either, just a few little dots here and there just to give the overall feel a little depth. So that's a good tip for creating interest and depth in any piece that you're using line work for. If you vary the line widths, it just gives it a little extra interest. And I'm actually just doodling over half of this design. So when all is said and done, we're going to cut these bad boys into little bitty strips to make bookmarks, and half of them will be doodled and half of them will just be the abstract watercolor. So I wanted to show you that you could do it in either way. Alright, and the next thing that I'm going to do is go in here with a little bit of white gouache and just splash some white over top. Just another little pop of color over top of the actual flowers themselves for interest. You can go in here with Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. You can do this the slow way and just go in here and make dots with a white gel pen if you want, but that is completely up to you. I'm also splashing some of the watercolor back on top just to add some little bitty splashes of color, especially to the grassy type area, but just giving a little something extra on top of the flowers and on top of the doodles. I'm going in here and making a few more lines, adding just little dots and a couple little butterfly doodles in here just to give it a little bit of something in the white spaces. Okay, so once that is done, we are pretty much ready to cut it out, and it jumps a little bit because I was switching cutters here, but I was doing a piss poor job of cutting this bad boy out with a slightly worse trimmer, but here we go. And then we're just going to turn it into little bookmarks. It's got a nice little edge on it. I'm going straight up to the color and doing about, I think it's a 1.5 inch cut on these, so they're relatively small little bookmarks, and there are a couple of like 1 inch thick ones in here, but yep, we're just cutting it into little strips, and there you have your bookmarks. You got half of them with doodles and half without, and then I'm just going to go in here really super quick and fill in a couple of the edges of the Okay, here we have it. So I've got like 6 little bookmarks here. So 3 of them have doodles on them, and 3 of them are completely abstract, just watercolor flowers. Very, very abstract, but I think still very, very pretty. So we've got 2 1.5 inch and 1 sort of like 3/4 inch. We've got 2 1.5 inch doodle ones over here, and 1 sort of 1 1/4, 1 3/8 kind of thing here. Which one is your favorite? Do you like it with or without the doodles? And if so, number 1 through 6, which actual bookmark is your favorite? I have a favorite as well, and I think it's gonna be this one right here. So I'm curious to see your thoughts and your comments down below as to which is your favorite and which version of this you like the best. So this is absolutely beginner kind of watercolor painting that absolutely anybody can do. Just doodle, and flowers don't have to look like any specific flowers. Just go in and have fun with it. Be very quick, be very loose, and just go for it, and then they come out really, really gorgeous, I think. So these are really cute. I would definitely use these. I would definitely use all of them. So I think I'm going to put a couple of them up in the shop and yeah, put them up for sale. Alright, so I am going to see you in the next video. I want to thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a big thumbs up if you found it at all helpful. And until next time, bye everyone.